All right, let's talk about Google Cloud. If you're a developer, you've probably faced this question. You look at all the storage options and you wonder, which one is the right tool for my job? Well, today we're going to figure that out. Let's dive in. Every single app you build, whether it's a tiny website or a massive global service, it needs to store data somewhere. But then you see that list: cloud storage, Cloud SQL, Spanner, Firestore, Bigtable, and it can kind of make your head spin, right? Don't worry. Stick with me, because by the end of this, you're going to have a crystal clear map of where everything goes. Okay, so let's start at square one with the most fundamental kind of storage out there. I want you to think of it like a giant universal filing cabinet, or maybe a massive digital warehouse. This is just where you dump all your files, all your stuff. And the core idea here is something called object storage. Now, you know how on your computer you have folders inside of folders inside of folders? Well, object storage kind of throws that idea out the window. Instead, every single file is its own little self-contained package, an object with the data, some info about it, and its own unique web address. And that one simple idea is what makes it so incredibly scalable and just perfect for the internet. So Google's version of this is, you guessed it, simply called cloud storage. The key question is, when should you use it? Well, think about serving up all your website content, your images, your CSS files, or what about all your backups and disaster recovery plans? Yep, that goes here. Got huge files like videos or giant photos to share? This is your tool. So your files, they don't just float around in space. They live in these things called buckets. And each bucket has to have a name that's unique across the entire planet. Now here's a really important concept to grasp. The files are immutable. What does that mean? It means you don't actually edit a file, you just upload a new version of it. And trust me, this is a lifesaver for versioning and stopping you from accidentally messing things up. Okay, now this is one of the coolest parts, especially if you like saving money. It's called lifecycle policies. So a new file, right? People are using it all the time. It lives in the hot, fast storage. But after a month or two, access slows down. So Google just, poof, automatically moves it to a cheaper tier for you. And it keeps doing that as the file gets older and less used, all on its own. You don't have to lift a finger. So what you end up with are these 4 main storage clauses. And it's all about one thing: balancing how much you pay versus how fast you can get to your data. Standard is for your everyday hot data. Then you got Nearline, Coldline, and Archive for stuff you touch less and less often. Archive is basically the deep freeze. Super cheap, but you only plan to go there maybe once a year, if that. All right, so that's files. Simple enough. But what happens when things need to be, well, a lot more organized? We're graduating from that big, messy filing cabinet to something more like a perfectly organized library where everything has its place and connects to everything else. I mean, think about it. What if your data isn't just a bunch of standalone photos or videos? What if it's your entire customer list and all of their orders and the products in those orders? You can't just toss all that into a bucket and hope for the best. You need a system that actually understands how all those pieces are related. And that, my friends, is the job of the classic relational database, or what you'll usually hear called a SQL database. The absolute best way to picture it is a bunch of spreadsheets that are all linked together. You've got one for your customers, one for your orders, and they all know how to talk to each other. And the language they speak, that's SQL. So on Google Cloud, your entry point for this is going to be Cloud SQL. The magic word here is managed. That means Google handles all the boring but super critical stuff for you. The patching, the updates, the backups, you don't have to worry about it. It supports the big 3 you probably already know: MySQL, PostgreSQL, and SQL Server. Honestly, for most web apps, this is your go-to. And don't let that word standard fool you into thinking this is small-time stuff. We're talking about a single Cloud SQL instance scaling up to 64 terabytes. Let that sink in for a second. That is an absolutely massive amount of structured data. But what if even that isn't enough? What if you need to go global? This is where you hit a really important fork in the road. You see, Cloud SQL scales up. It's like getting a bigger and bigger engine for your car. But Spanner scales out. That's like getting hundreds of cars and having them all work together as one, spread out all over the world. And if you're wondering just how powerful Spanner really is, well, check this out. It is the exact same service that powers Google's own multi-billion-dollar business. Yeah. So when you need something that absolutely positively cannot fail and has to work across the entire planet, you're talking about Spanner. Okay, quick recap. We've got our filing cabinet for files, that's cloud storage, and we've got our organized library for structured data, that's Cloud SQL and Spanner. But What about modern apps? The kind of stuff we're building today for phones and the web. They often need something a bit looser, more flexible. And that brings us to our third category. And this is the world of NoSQL. So if SQL databases are those rigid spreadsheets where every single row has to have the exact same columns, NoSQL is more like a folder full of flexible documents. One document might have a name and an email, but the next one might have a name, an email, and a phone number. It doesn't care. And that flexibility is amazing for apps that are constantly changing and evolving. Now, Google's star player here, especially for you app developers, is Firestore. And this is where things get seriously cool. Firestore does real-time updates. Someone changes something on their phone, it instantly updates for everyone else. And get this, it even works when you're offline. Your app just keeps working, and the second you get a connection back, Firestore syncs everything up. That is an absolute game changer for user experience. Okay, but there's another NoSQL beast in the Google Cloud Zoo. If Firestore is the nimble, user-facing tool for your apps, then Bigtable is the absolute heavyweight champion for the backend. It's a totally different kind of NoSQL database. Its job? To chew through insane amounts of data for analytics. We're talking about the kind of technology that powers Google Search and Google Maps. Yeah, that big. So the choice here is actually pretty simple. Are you building an app that people are going to use directly? Like a social network, a game, a shopping app? Firestore is your friend. Are you dealing with a fire hose of data on the back end? Think IoT sensor data or financial trading data. That is Bigtable's territory all day long. All right, we did it. We've gone through the three big categories: object storage for files, SQL for structured data, and NoSQL for flexible data. Now let's put it all together. Let's build that mental cheat sheet so you know exactly what to do. This brings us right back to the question from the very beginning. You've got an idea for an app, you've got data. Where in the world does it go? Well, now we can finally answer that. Okay, here it is, your ultimate cheat sheet. Got big files, images, videos, backups? That's simple. Cloud storage. Building a pretty standard website with user accounts and orders? Start with Cloud SQL. Does that same app need to handle millions of users across the entire planet? Time to upgrade to Spanner. What about a modern mobile app that needs real-time updates and an offline mode? That screams Firestore. And finally, are you analyzing petabytes of raw data from sensors or logs? That is a job for Bigtable. See, it's simple when you break it down. You see, at the end of the day, there is no single best storage. It is always about picking the right tool for the specific job you're trying to do. So now, I want you to think about your own projects, that next big idea that's buzzing around in your head. With this new map in your mind, ask yourself, what kind of data does my idea have? And now, where does it really belong?